and welcome back to my channel. Or if you're new here, just welcome. My name is Rusty, and this is me chat where I talk about me favorite movies, mostly horror, and me favorite music, mostly metal, and fidget with my hair a lot. And we are going to continue some of my favorite wasteland, post-apocalyptic, dystopic, and plain old crazy movies. And today we are going to be talking about Future World. Now, Future World was released in 2018, and it stars James Franco, Suki Waterhouse, which we just did, and you know what's really weird is I'm not lying, and I'm not kidding when I say I had no idea that Suki Waterhouse was the star of this movie. Now, Suki Waterhouse is the star of The Bad Batch that we just did, so I kind of saw that and I was like, well, how interesting. So, James Franco, Suki Waterhouse, Jeff Wahlberg, Milla Jovovich, and Lucy Liu. And it was released in 2018. It's got such a down rating on International Movie Database, which, you know, I never pay attention to that much anyway. Occasionally, I have found something that I was like, yeah, that really sucked. But weirdly enough, most of the time, especially horror, action, and post-apocalyptic, it's just wrong. But then again, the difference between movie collectors and cinemaphiles and cinema buffs are so different than critics, but we're also very different than mainstream movies. I mean, the average person out there probably does nothing but sees a few movies, you know, big blockbusters, MCU and John Wick and, you know, Scream 6, and, you know, they just aren't like us. And I think we have a lot more tolerance and find a lot more in a wider array of cinema. So, Future World, like I said, was released in 2018. And let's talk about it. Now, the movie opens with an intro, a narrated intro, and some visuals, which is explaining to you that the person that is speaking to you is an artificial intelligence, a cyborg. They discussed the corporate wars that went on with the use of AI and stuff like that that caused the current destruction of in this particular apocalypse. They also discuss a chemical weapon that was used called the Red Fever, and the world is now in ruins. It's like Mad Max kind of thing. Tribal warlords control everything, and that's all that's left. And this cyborg is telling you this as it then goes, I don't want to see anymore, and puts itself into hibernation. Sort of like a hibernation mode. It's at this point that we are brought into the current, and we are at a survivors settlement. Once again, you always have the good people that gather together in settlements and try to rebuild, and then you have the gangs and the tribal things. So it's definitely very Mad Max, this movie. So we are in this settlement. We are then introduced to the leader of our gang, our main gang, and his name is just Warlord. That's played by James Franco. As he attacks this settlement, kills a bunch of people, and turns out that he is there for a specific reason, and that is he is looking for this cyborg. He does manage to find her. Her name is Ash, and it's played by Suki Waterhouse. So he manages to get it where, as the tribal intellect would be, decides just to basically turn her into his own personal killing machine and his own personal sex slave, which is, what you would expect. So he does that, and while he's doing that, introduces her to his gang as his new wife. She's his personal kill robot. We are then introduced to a different settlement. Now, this settlement is ran by Lucy Liu. Her name is Queen. She is the queen. It's called Oasis. And they live a very agrarian life. Good people, farming, stuff like that, trying to survive. And she has the red fever. Now, she has a son, played by Jeff Wahlberg, his name is Prince, and Prince, which makes sense. She's queen, he's Prince. And he has heard rumors about a place called Paradise Beach where there is supposedly a cure for the red fever. So him and a couple of friends, they set out to go and find this to cure his mother. That's the whole purpose of his journeying out into the wasteland. Now, the first place that he runs across is called Lovetown, also known as Titty City. And it is ran by, a pimp, Snoop Dogg, the musician, Snoop Dogg. So Snoop Dogg is the pimp. What better choice could you make? So Snoop Dogg is the pimp of this place, where he then, does all of his pimp talk. He's very funny. He's a very funny character in this movie. The guys, shock them all because they have a gun with some bullets. Now, bullets are rare. You can't find any bullets in the world anymore. So he ends up, they attack him, and he ends up shooting one of the guys in there. This really does get the Lovelord, Snoop Dogg's, attention. Now, of course, what they want is they want that gun. More than that gun, they want those bullets, yeah. So they incorporate, Warlord incorporates Ash to, and I just rolled my eyes at that because, you're on a very intense mission, and all it takes is someone like Suki Waterhouse wanting to play with your genitals, and you will fall for any trap. So it's like, I don't know, sometimes I think that particular orientation is just almost a mental illness. Which is ironic, right? Since that's what they called us for so many decades. But, I think the proof bears it out. So they end up, both of his friends get killed, and he is tortured by Warlord and Ash, wanting to know where these bullets came from. Where did he come from? So he ends up being tortured to the point where he tells them, and the gang takes off. However, Ash has been having issues. She erased her memory, but it's still all buried in there. So although she's been turned into a killbot and sex slave, there's this little morality, Asimov's rules and stuff keep creeping up. And on the way back to Oasis, she ends up flipping. Like, I'm not going to do this anymore. I am not a bad person. I'm not going to do this. So she attacks. I've never had that happen before. So she attacks and gets them away from him. So her and him take off into the desert. They're all freaking out. I mean, James Franco is so over the top with his portrayal of this disgusting warlord that it's almost comical how over the top he is. So they are running, hiding, ducking, weaving. They manage to get away, and they manage to find Paradise Beach. So when they get to Paradise Beach, though, it turns out, he asked the woman that's there, and the woman recognizes Ash as a synthetic. She had, of course, been damaged in the fight to get away. So she, we are introduced to Milla Jovovich. She plays the leader of this drug town, which is what it's actually called. And there they make all of these chemicals and drugs, and everybody's a junkie, and it's very barbaric. And she wants Ash. She finds out that the boy wants the cure, and yes, they do have a cure for the red fever. But she injects him with dope, and he's tripping out while she gets her techie, which is this girl, to fix Ash. And once Ash is fixed, and Milla Jovovich is just great as this drug queen, the leader of this drug town. And she ends up okay. So she's not super evil, but at the same time, she's still moderately evil. And one of the things that she does is she's well, I'll give you the cure, but you're going to have to get it from him. And there's this big, giant, muscle guy. And they have an old pool that they have drained, and it is used as sort of an arena, like in Conan the Barbarian. So everybody gathers around it, and, she's I put the cure in a vial, and it's in his stomach. So if you want the cure, don't die, and get it out, So we have this bloody fight. The boy does manage to win, actually. And probably because the other thing was on so much dope. But he manages to win, and then he's got a machete, and she's like, I told you where it was. So we do see him, cut open this man to get the cure. Now that he has the cure, he's like, well, come on, Ash, let's leave. And she's like, no. Ash is mine. She's perfection, and she's mine. And she's staying with me. You can get the fuck out. Or you can stay here for just about 2 minutes longer, and I'm going to kill you. So you're going to go away now with what you came here for. I've been nice enough to give it to you, and you're going to leave me with mine. So he does do that, he starts taking off and leaving. In the meantime, though, Techie and Ash develop a relationship. And they sort of Ash falls in love with this girl, this techie girl. So you have Suki Waterhouse and the techie are they make out and stuff. They have sex, at which point, of course, the drug lord finds them. She's very, very upset. And she says that she is going to, that the techie has to wipe Ash's memory and leave her alone and give her to her because they are going to be together. Now, in the meantime, Prince has had a change of heart, and he has come back, creeping around to try to rescue Ash. And about the time that he arrives, so does Warlord and his gang. So there is these huge fights, a lot of action. We get to see a face-off between the drug lord and the warlord. So James Franco and Milla Jovovich. And you know her in Resident Evil. It's a good fight. And he does manage to kill her, though. Ugly. Very, very ugly. And in the meantime, though, Prince has been breaking the chains and helping the techie and Ash get away. So they get away. Warlord and them come after them. And Milla had gotten a nice good stab on the Warlord, so he's a little bit damaged. Well, Ash finally stops, like the cycles that they are on, the motorcycles. So she stops the motorbikes, and Prince is like, "What are you doing? Let's get out of here." She turns around and has a major face-off with the Warlord. So you got James Franco and Suki Waterhouse. They go down into a big giant fight. This time, he doesn't make it because she kills his ass. And the three of them take off and go back to Oasis, where Suki and Techie, as a couple, are accepted. And Prince, gets back to Lucy Liu, his mom, and heals her, and everything is good to go. And that is when Suki Waterhouse. That's when Ash and the techie, they tell them that they're going to leave and go off together to have their own life while they search for the few remaining cyborgs like her. And maybe they can fix this world if she can find the rest of the cyborgs to help rebuild this planet. So that's where it sort of ends, and the credits start to roll when we see a post-credits scene. And I think it was great because you see it's back at Lovetown, and you see Snoop Dogg, doing his bitches this and bitches that, and he's got like shock collars around their necks, his property. And that's how he shocks them to make them do his will. So Suki shows back up. Ash shows back up. Walks in there. And you get to see her destroy his control box. And tell the girls that they're free after she beats the shit out of him. So he's sitting there laying on the ground. She beats the hell out of him. Gets the control box. Breaks it. And, of course, all of the slave girls can take off their thing. And there's probably about 30 of them, 35 of them. It's a lot. We're talking best little whorehouse in Texas kind of quantity of slaves that he had. Where they then descend on him and she walks away as they rip him to shreds. Which was very appropriate, very karmic, to see Snoop Dogg ripped to shreds, the pimp ripped to shreds by his former slaves. And then that's when the movie ends completely. Like I said, this movie's got a really low score on International Movie Database. I gave it a 7 out of 10. I really, really enjoyed it. Whoever this Jeff Wahlberg is that Marky? Is he kin to Marky Mark? I don't know. I didn't look it up. I was going to look it up. I should have looked it up, but I didn't. But his name is Jeff Wahlberg. I don't know if he's Mark Wahlberg's son or not. You can check that if you would like. I'm sure I will eventually. But I love Milla Jovovich's character. She was really, really cool. Lucy Liu really didn't have much to do. She just spouted philosophy and agrarian goodness at this Oasis thing. And it was good, though, to see her, saved by her son. So everything's all well there. And then I guess Ash and Techie, they went off to, it showed them in a bunch of really nice, lovey scenes. So obviously they're very happy together. And they're going off to find other cyborgs to, I guess, free them, revive them, or whatever. It'd be a good sequel. But I really liked it. It's I think you have to be a fan of this kind of genre. Post-apocalyptic warlords, Mad Max type stuff, and yeah, it was pretty good. I enjoyed it, and I'm glad to have it. Suki Waterhouse did really good. So yeah, and that's the basic story. Of course, I leave out a lot, but that's the basic story. Lots of good scenes, lots of good fights, lots of good action. Um, they didn't go too deep into the apocalypse. They didn't go too deep into the backstory. But as we've discussed before, and in an upcoming one, um, we don't often have a lot of backstory about what the disaster was. At least we know that this was a corporate wars using AI and chemical weapons that destroyed the earth. So, at least we do have an answer in this one. They just didn't go too super deep in it once they had it set up. So yeah, James Franco, Milla Jovovich, Lucy Liu, Suki Waterhouse, and Jeff Wahlberg. And I will see you in the next one. Thank you for stopping by and checking out my little review of this movie. If you haven't seen it, you should. It's pretty easy to find. If you're into this genre, give it a shot. Love you, miss you. Bye. And always remember and never forget, you are a very, very special person, even if you are not part of a wasteland tribe. And I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.